Welcome to the voice of CX Africa, where Africa speaks and the world listens.
We dive into real customer experiences, bold business moves, and vibrant voices shaping the CX landscape in Africa.
This is Africa's time.
This
is your voice. My name is Laura Minde, a certified hospitality trainer, and
Stephen Kagame, your CX futurist and certified marketer.
And today we'll be talking about customer journey mapping. The steps your customers take from the moment they hear about your brand to the moment they become your advocates. So Stephen, let's jump into it. What is customer journey mapping?
Well, customer journey mapping is in another way called touchpoint mapping. It's basically designing a journey for the customer from the time of need recognition to the time they become advocates for their businesses. So it's a step-by-step breakdown of their journey in a way that connects them from the need recognition all through to the time they become advocates to your business.
So in a nutshell, it's like the steps your customers take before, during, and after interacting with your brand. Why do you think this is important? I mean, I could think of many reasons why it's important. For example, just understanding your customer's experience from their perspective and putting yourself in their shoes, walking the journey like they walk. Why else do you think it's important?
Well, looking at the customer journey map, it helps you understand how a customer feels at every touch point of their journey. For example, how they feel when they need something, and how they feel when they search for it, how they feel when they actually need information about it, and then eventually how they feel when they pay and leave your store. So it's basically helping you understand how your customer will feel when they interact with your brand at the various touch points of their journey.
And I think this also helps you understand the pain points of your customer, because you as the designer of your business could see this as from an overview or from an inside view that this is how it runs, but the customer sees it from deeper, right? That this is where I struggle with your business. These are the pain points. So I think in customer journey mapping, it also helps us as business owners understand where are the pain points, what are the solutions to correct this, and it also helps us identify where are the moments where we could delight.
Exactly. They call them opportunities.
Exactly. Talk more about those opportunities.
So you will understand that at this particular point, this is what the customer needs. So what do I do to make them feel comfortable or feel good about that step of the journey? So if at all they're on a particular platform trying to surf or looking through entertainment, what do they need to find there if you're to talk to them? So you want to make sure that there's an omni-channel experience,
Right.
both online and physically. So
Right.
you just anticipate and be like, okay, at this point they will need this. What I need to put it there before they come. They will need
Yes.
customer support here. You put maybe an AI support or someone to call them at that particular point. So it's basically it gives you an opportunity to, in introspect, know that, okay, yeah, in retrospect, this is where they will pass. This is what I need to put for them. So that's an
Exactly.
opportunity for you to discover those moments.
Yeah, and also an opportunity for the staff within the business themselves to understand the journey the customer is going through, so they themselves are proactive about the service they deliver, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you tell us maybe what are the general 5 steps in customer journey mapping?
So simply put, there are 5 steps. You have the awareness stage, you have the consideration stage, you have the decision stage where they make a decision to make payments for your product or service. Then you have the retention or usage stage and the advocacy stage. Those are the main key areas that we are going to have a conversation about today.
Yes, and I want to just jump into the awareness stage when the customer discovers your brand. Are you visible? Because these days we hear about visibility, and a lot of businesses, they are on social media, on different platforms, trying to be visible. However, the main question is, are you in the right channels? Because there's something we call the customer persona. If I'm trying to target Kagame, where does Kagame consume his information from? Is it from X? Is it from LinkedIn? Is it from Twitter? And is my information readily available for you? So when we talk about visibility, it's about your customer being easily searchable. If I search you on Google, are you on the top ranking searches?
Exactly.
Because again, our decisions are, like you said, illogical or logical, that the first name that appears, that's the most credible name that I might go with, right?
That's for sure.
So make sure that your business is like ranked well on Google. Make sure your website is working, because if I'm going to go to your website and then it's taking forever just to load, then I might just bounce off right there and then. Tell us more about awareness. What else should we be aware when we're building awareness for our businesses?
Yes, like you said, you need to know the customer. So you have to like have those fictional characters to define this person you're trying to target. Once you're clear about who your customer is, then you will know where they spend their time,
right?
What kind of device they have, and what kind of information they would need to help them make the decisions they have to make while interacting with your brand. On X, put something very simple, maybe a link to take them to the website.
Yes.
Once they get to the website, what do you want them to do when they get there? So support them through that journey. We had talked about, frequently asked questions. These are very important in that they don't have to call you. You're literally giving them everything, and they're finding it as they navigate, their online experience. So you want to make sure that is very clear from the word go. Just make sure that every point, if at all they spend more time on LinkedIn, the time they go to LinkedIn.
Yes.
So that's the point you put your information there. If you know they spend more time on X, please do that.
Yeah.
Facebook. So you need to know them to the detail, and that will inform your mapping journey and how best you're going to delight them at every touch point.
And I think it's important to highlight here that consistency is very, very important. Key. That you're not there one day and the next day you're not there. Exactly. There's this saying that the winners are those who are consistently persistent, showing up every single day. So make sure you show up even in community events. That's a way of building up your brand awareness. In churches, in supporting corporate social responsibilities, all different things of just making sure you are at the forefront in their faces of your customer. Exactly. Now, moving on to the next stage, which is the consideration, right?
The consideration stage. Now, for the consideration stage is basically making sure that once they're on your website, you have the right information for them to make the decision you want them to make. If maybe they're looking for something, make sure it's there at the point they're on the landing page. So we have such a thing as the homepage and the landing page. So once they get to maybe it's a product that you were trying to advertise and they saw the product. So the link that you put there will take them to the product page.
Yes.
So the product page has to have all information about the product and what they need to do next if they need to buy the product.
Yes.
So you give them all options. You give them all information, because the examples of people that navigate the platforms that we have. We have people that are humanistic. We have people that are deliberate. We have people that are quick. And we have those that are analytical.
I think I'm quick, huh?
So, yes. So you have to understand the persona. Very important, because you will know how they feel at every touch point. Once you know how a customer feels on your, navigating your website, you will know how they feel when they are making payment. I think that's going to be very important. So the consideration stage is basically make sure they have the rightful information to evaluate and make a rightful decision that is in their interest.
That's true.
Eventually, it becomes of value to you because you've made it easy for them to get what they want. Know the goal and objective of your customer and make sure they achieve that goal once they're navigating your platform. And
I think just to add on to the consideration is that you have to remember that when somebody is looking to buy a service or a product, they're not just looking at your brand. They'll be comparing you to multiple other brands.
Correct.
So how do you stand out against your competition? Is your website quickly accessible? When somebody calls your office, does somebody pick up the phone right away? So it's just basically making the lives of your customer as easy as possible to find the information about your product or your service, right?
That's for
so
sure.
Now that we have compared you with different businesses, and I'm convinced that Kagame store is the store to go to, what comes next?
The next thing is now I need to make a decision. Maybe I'm going to buy a phone, and I've seen the specifications, I've seen where you're located, and now I'm looking at how much is the phone. So I've seen how much is the phone. There's an option to pay by Momo. There's an option to pay by Visa card. So because maybe I'm not at your store, I would just want to make payments. So you want to make sure that process is also very easy for me. So I'll either, pay using Momo, get a confirmation message. So the decision part is basically me making payment.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is a very critical moment. So they call it the moment of truth, because it's either I buy or I don't buy.
Exactly.
And I just have a small story where I remember one time back in Tanzania, I went to a shop in Serengeti in one of those boutique shops in a hotel.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to buy something in this shop. However, when it came to the moment of paying, I had cash. They were not receiving any cash. And right there, they lost me because they were not receiving cash. So it's important we go back to the customer persona, that how does your customer also want to pay for your product or services? And looking at the business trends, like in Africa, a lot of the businesses are paying using M-Pesa or Momo or Lipa number. Do you have this available? Do you have, if I wanted to pay by card, available? Would you accept cash? What are your terms and conditions of accepting cash?
Exactly.
So all this needs to be very clearly put so that it makes the life of your customer easier. Because at this moment in this story, that they lost a customer that could have potentially bought something just because of the payment options, right?
That's for sure.
Right.
That's for sure.
So now that we assume that the process was seamless. I was able to pay by Momo, and I'm buying, let's say, I don't know, a dress. What's next?
So at that particular point, you have your dress. If at all it's been delivered to you, or you had to go and get it from the physical store, you're now driving back to your home. And now getting to your home, you want to try it on because you're excited. So once I get home, I try on the dress in my dressing mirror, and I realize the dress is not fitting, you know? So in the process of, you know, trying to check it and stretch it a bit, I realized that it's not the fit that I wanted.
Yeah.
So there has to be a flexibility for me to call back. And that's the point where we need support,
Yes.
the usage point. We are at the point where you need customer support, that they have used your product and maybe they're finding a challenge with it. You need to be flexible when they call you and they're like, you know what, I think I need to change this.
Yes.
So the return process is going to be very important, even when the customer is navigating your platform, to know that with this brand, it's very easy for me to return a dress once it doesn't fit me, and I'll get what I want, because that will make them even bond more with your brand,
Yeah.
as opposed to now being like, you have the money now and you're going to have to forget about the customer.
Yeah.
So the customer support is going to be very important.
Very
in that
important.
case, yeah.
And I want to bring it back to as a specialist in hospitality industry,
Yeah.
because once I've done the consideration, I've compared you to several other hotels, and then finally I've made the payment, because in hospitality you normally make the payment in advance. And so my expectations are very, very high because you already have my money. Then when I come to consume your service, then the pain point starts happening. You didn't check me in well. You didn't ask me about my dietary requirement. The rooms were not cleaned, or the bed is not good enough. So this is when now it's a critical moment as well, when I'm consuming your product. And you talked about the service recovery. Even in hospitality, the stakeholders need to be aware that if something goes wrong or not according to plan, how do I do, or what do I do to resolve this issue as quickly as possible? In a dress, we talked about return policy. In hospitality, we talked service recovery.
Service recovery.
How do you do that as quickly, as seamlessly as possible, so that the guests can enjoy the rest of your stay with you? Because again, this is a moment of truth.
It is.
I looked at beautiful pictures. I looked at a beautiful destination. Is it what I saw on the internet, right? Yeah. So after now I've consumed the service, we do now the advocacy, right?
Yes.
Tell me about the advocacy.
Yeah, so the advocacy is basically, now that the person has used the dress, you've given them what they want, you're now looking at how do I make sure that I keep them in the loop of what's happening with my brand? Because maybe I've realized they love fashion. So I'm basically going to ask them I'm going to be in the places they love to visit. That takes us back to understanding them. You know, you'd be like, they love to check out Instagram. So on your Instagram, you have to put in the different, you know, fashions that you have available, the different dresses, the designs available. So she's following you. So I may even ask them to follow you.
Yes.
You know, and then they're able to like follow up on and know how your brand is progressing, what new things are in store. And in case there are things you want to tell them more about, how to handle the dress, maybe how to wash it.
Yes.
Just to make sure that it did not end at the transactional point,
Yes.
but it now became a relationship. Because I realized some brands are more transactional, others are relational. So the game changer is at the point where you actually go beyond transaction and build a real relationship with this client.
And that's when I become your advocate or your ambassador, because of the way you treated me. Because we talk about customer experiences, how you make the customers feel. And that's what remains memorable to me.
You're right.
And then I will talk about you in rooms that you're not in and say, you know what, go to that Kagame store, right?
That's true.
And in this point of advocacy, it's important also for businesses to remember about collecting feedback.
That's true.
So before a customer leaves your store, before a customer leaves your hotel, always ask for feedback. What did they think? And this would already tell you if they're going to be your advocate or not.
That's true.
You know, there's all those, what's it called, when you have these emojis with the faces. We just think they're just emojis with the faces and the customer presses on it. This actually is data that gives you information about the customer's experience.
Yeah.
Exactly, how they felt about your service. Now, we talked about pain points earlier.
Yes.
Through the customer journey mapping. Now, I want to go with a real scenario of maybe an example that you've had where a customer went through the journey mapping, or you went through the journey, and there was a pain point that you felt like the business overlooked. Do you have a story of such story?
Yes. Well, this is going to sound like, very hypothetical, but it's actually real. Having worked in the healthcare industry, I've noticed that many patients really have those moments. If I get a headache, I'm feeling feverish, I'm looking for the nearest hospital to actually get treatment.
Right.
So imagine yourself, you're at work, and then eventually you get a fever, and that is already affecting your work in the way you're working. So you go to, you go to Google and then look for the nearest hospital with a physician. So what you type in will give you results, but the results will depend on which hospital optimized their website better than the other.
True.
So search engine optimization is very important in that case. So at that touch point, I'm going to look at the first 4 results, and then I'll choose which one.
Yes.
Because which one is authentic, and then maybe the one that has a physician under it, I'll choose and then click on it. So that's the point of, I'm aware that this person does this. I'm now moving into the phase of consideration.
Yeah.
So I get onto the homepage or the product page, and then there's a point of book an appointment. And then I'm able to book an appointment in that case. And I put in my details, and now they've told me it's 6 p.m. Maybe you book the appointment maybe at midday, and then you drive to the hospital. So driving to the hospital, you get to the entrance, you meet a security person, you need to park, and maybe there is no parking. That's a pain point.
Yeah.
So that's pain point 1. You're feeling frustrated already.
Yes.
Because at every pain point, there's a feeling that you get.
Yes.
So you're already feverish, but now you're also frustrated. And there's anxiety growing. You're not feeling well and you need to see a doctor. So you get to the reception and you're being told that the doctor is seeing other people, so your appointment, you might have to wait. So that's the moment of truth. Now they told you that the doctor will be available at a particular time, and you find that the doctor is not available. So that also brings more headache to you.
Exactly.
So they tell you, please have a seat and wait. The doctor is going to call you in once he's done. And then you have to go through the queue. So the queue is also a frustration. Those are different pain points.
Yes.
And then get into the room, the doctor sees you, fast forward, you go and see the pharmacist. Getting there, the prescription gives you 5 medicines, and then you realize the pharmacy has 3 medicines only.
True story.
More frustration.
Yeah.
So all those are moments of truth. They're pain points that you're dealing with as you're navigating every touch point of the hospital.
Yeah.
And then eventually, the pharmacist in this particular case maybe tells you, you know what, we have a delivery policy. We can deliver your medicine. You can have the 3, but in 2 hours, we're going to make sure we've sourced for that medicine and we'll deliver it to you real time. So that one kind of gives you confidence. That's the part of reassurance. So now you leave the hospital, run back to work, and then you wait for that drug to be delivered. Maybe they don't call you. So it's 2 hours past and you haven't yet seen anyone knock at your door that you've delivered your medicine. That's another pain point. So this person they have the medicine, they have the treatment. Because they have delayed, they decide to buy the medicine outside.
Yes.
And now it's another cost.
Another frustration.
That's a pain point as well. So you take your treatment as the doctor advised, but you're like, next time I'm not going back to that place.
You never go back. Yeah, it's true.
So pretty much that's the experience. I'm just taking you a journey of someone who just needed treatment to feel better, but they got sicker.
It's true, and this happens
yes.
quite often, and that's why we are talking about customer journey mapping, that you need to understand where exactly are the pain points, where could you delight and give those magic wow moments.
That's true.
And you can only do that by either receiving feedback or doing customer journey mapping or really taking time to understand your data, what are people saying, or social listening as well.
That's very important, actually.
Yes. Yeah. And we're going to talk about this into our next podcast where we'll talk about listening to our customers and using the right tools to listen to our customers. Now, let's go to the moments of truth. We talked about the moments, pain points. How can business leverage the moments of truth?
Yeah, so we have this whole narrative of of you promise and you create expectation. So the customer makes a decision based on what you've promised.
Exactly.
Once they get into your physical store and they realize that you've fallen short of what you promised, that is what I would define as a moment of truth. How do you deal with a moment of truth?
And that's, I usually say in hospitality, it's a promise. When you break that promise, you have broken trust. Exactly. So go on.
So in that particular case, you're facing a moment of truth. You have to have a mitigation policy around that. How do we mitigate these moments of truth? And I think communication comes in very handy in that particular case. So, for example, I get to the hospital, like in the case I had mentioned, and the doctor is engaged. Yet I was told he would be available at that particular time. I'm on time, but the doctor is not ready to see me.
Right.
In that particular case, you're supposed to communicate to the client and in a way that makes them comfortable.
Yes.
That, you know what, because this is a very active hospital, very busy hospital, sometimes we have emergencies that the doctor has to work on, so that affects.
Yes.
So maybe you can, before the client comes into the hospital, you call them and you're like, you know what, we had anticipated that you would see the doctor at 6, but because of this and that,
Yes.
you might have to wait a bit, and maybe for 30 minutes or an hour. So that takes away the anxiety of you promise and you're not delivering, but you've communicated to show that things can happen.
Yes.
So that's for me like one example of dealing with a moment of truth.
So we want to hear from our audience, what pain points have you recently experienced?
Yes.
And if you did put yourself in the shoes of the business owner, what would you do differently? Now, Kagame, this is the moment of truth of giving our audience the actual step-by-step guide on what they can do to do just a simple customer journey mapping for their businesses today. Can you run us through what we should do?
Yeah, so very importantly, so like we told you, we showed you the journey starts from awareness, consideration, decision, retention or usage, and then you talk of advocacy. So in this particular case, one, you're going to have to design different customer personas that represent the target audience that you're trying to solve problems for. After doing that, you now go to the part of mapping out their journey based on their goals, based on their objectives, based on how they feel, based on their need. So you map out a journey from the point they need something, and that's like top of the funnel. And then there's what we call middle of the funnel. What exactly do you need to make them, what information do they need to make a decision? So you make sure that at that particular point, if it's the website, you have the right information for them to make a decision. And then after that, you have to provide the different payment options for them to make a decision. So that's the payment part, the part of decision making. And then you now go down to how do I support them once they have been able to buy a product or a service after they have left my brick and mortar. So after that, now you go to the advocacy. Advocacy is basically how am I going to make sure they come back again? So the follow-up information, it could be an email.
Loyalty cards.
These are things that delight customers. So you want to map out at least 5 to 7 steps of what you expect your customer to go through. After that, you will have to now observe what challenges are they facing on a rolling basis, continuous improvement. Because what you said might not be the actual thing.
Yes.
Because customer behavior keeps changing every other
Exactly.
time. So you want to make sure that you know that at this point they could face this. How do I remove that bottleneck? So that's basically how you're going to do it. So the 5-step or 7-step is basically know your persona, and then from your persona, you're going to now curate a journey for the person with different touch points, because right now we have different multiple touch points.
Yes.
So you want to make sure if it's online, it's a good experience.
Exactly.
If it's physical, it's a good experience.
Yeah.
And then that way you'll be able to curate your journey.
Yeah. And to make your lives easier, we have created a free customer journey mapping template that you can download on the show notes after the show. So don't forget to download and share your customer journey mapping with us via LinkedIn on the Voice of CX Africa. Now, I want us to go back to a basic story of customer journey mapping on just regular life. You know, Africans were very good at hosting. And I was thinking when we were preparing this show that customer journey, we do it unconsciously every day. For example, when we're inviting our friends and relatives for, a birthday celebration, how do we build the awareness that there's going to be a birthday celebration? Typically, you'll find even an announcement is made in the church. I ask the pastor after the service, I need to make an announcement. There's going to be a baptism at my house at a certain day, at a certain time.
Yeah.
That is an awareness. We have WhatsApp groups. You send a WhatsApp group, you blast to everybody that there's going to be an event happening at my place. You're building an awareness on different channels.
Yes.
And this is something we do naturally as Africans in our own family celebrations. So imagine if we replicate that in business, building that awareness. And then there's the consideration. Why would I come to your party? Because I know you usually have plenty of food, plenty of nyama, plenty of drinks. Definitely.
That is a trigger already.
It's already a trigger. I'm
Yeah.
not going to miss out on that party. So I will definitely be coming to your party.
That's
And
true.
then when I come to your party, the way you receive me, with drums, music.
So for African businesses out there, looking at the story we just heard from Laura, that's exactly what we're supposed to apply in our day-to-day business activities, to anticipate that the customer will need something and then curate an experience for them at the point they interact with your brand. If it's where they spend much of their time, if it's LinkedIn, try to position yourself as a thought leader. Speak about things that they would want to know. Then if it's Facebook, talk about your product, because that's where many people do a lot of evaluation of different products. If it's your website, make sure that they have the information necessary to make a decision, because customer journey mapping is about providing information and support for the customer at every touch point to make the right decisions and to achieve and accomplish their goal, because the customer has their goal. So you need to anticipate the customer's goal as opposed to your goal of making money. Because once you make it easy for the customer, it will become a shorter journey for them, and then they will be able to make payments even faster. And that will have to inform your bottom line as well. So just make sure you anticipate the needs and then create a journey that meets their needs at every stage of their journey interacting with your brand.
Wow, thank you. And that is a wrap. We always say customer experience does not happen by chance. You need to design it. And I hope you find this session very useful. Please follow us on LinkedIn on the Voice of CX Africa for the next show, which is
social listening. We're basically going to talk about how do I make sure I know what my customer is talking about me out there. So we're going to talk about listening systems and how to actively follow up and know what people are saying about your brand in the different places that people meet and have conversations.
Until next time, keep creating experiences that people talk about. This is Laura Minde.
This is Stephen Kagame, your CX futurist and marketer. See you in our next episode.